From beautiful downtown Millheim, in the smack dab center of the Keystone State, this is Lou Bryson with Seen Through a Glass, a podcast that's mostly about food and drink in central Pennsylvania. Welcome to episode 71, the post-Christmas coffee break. I told you this day after Christmas Boxing Day episode was going to be lazy, but because Kathy wasn't really down with the idea of Dave and I hitting the dive bars of northern Pennsylvania 2 days before Christmas, imagine that. How unreasonable. And the more I thought about it, the more the idea of an hour of sequential what I'm drinking today sounded ill-advised. What to do? Well, I decided to take a look at what I had in the tank, as it were. And there was a good interview I did back in October with the founder of State Line Distillery in Madison, Wisconsin, John Mleziva. We talked about a range of stuff, but mostly we talked about his excellent coffee liqueur and how it's become the best seller for the distillery. And I thought, we're going to spend the morning of Boxing Day lazily sitting around drinking coffee. We'll probably have some coffee cake, maybe some of those coffee chocolate chip cookies Kathy told you about. And come noontime, I might just start dosing the coffee with some of John's liqueur, maybe even jazz things up in the late afternoon with an Irish coffee. So let's all take a coffee break today, and you can join me for a cup, or a mug, or a glass. I like mine with cream, no sugar. You, of course, should roll it as you like it. We'll play John's interview and maybe talk about some other stuff. I can also tell you about one of the best press junkets I ever took in 2011 to the Kahlua plant in Mexico City, which included a trip to a coffee plantation near Veracruz and a visit to La Estrella de Oro, an old dive bar in the town of Coatepec. One more thing. I'm recording this the morning of Christmas Eve, and we've got all 3 corgis and my son's little Yorkie here. And if they start barking, as they do at the slightest provocation, I'm just going to keep recording. As another podcaster said in a Facebook group recently, if there isn't a dog barking in the background, is it really a podcast? That's the plan. Let's get things perking with what I'm drinking today. What I'm drinking today is John's State Line Coffee Liqueur. That's what it's called, just State Line Coffee Liqueur. Now, we're going to talk more about it in the interview, so I'm not going to really tell you about it other than it's a fairly plain label, made with cold brew coffee. Where are we at? 25%. So 50 proof. Let's have a whiff. Wow, there's a strong aroma of roasted beans, as you'd expect, but there's also an intriguing aroma of banana and chocolate and wow, it smells kind of like when you just split open a vanilla bean. Let's try some. Yeah, now what I like about this, and apparently what a lot of judges at spirits competitions have liked, it's not heavy. It's a fairly light liqueur. It's not cloying. The coffee is really intense and pretty pure. You've got some sweetness. You've got some of that, a little bit of that banana. I'm not sure where that's coming from, but I like it. A little bit of chocolate, a little bit of, I think I mentioned vanilla already, but, and you know, the spirit base comes through. You can definitely taste alcohol, but all in all, it comes, it delivers the coffee. There's a slight finish and a little bit of grip, a little bit of cling, and you're ready for the next one. I can see why this is a big seller. This is good stuff. I do have some other good coffee liqueurs, and I might sip some of those in a bit. But for now, we're going to keep rolling with Smack Dab in the Center, sponsored by the Happy Valley Adventure Bureau. Well, what do you think I'm going to talk about? It's coffee. When you run on the stuff, you want to know where the next bag of beans, the next cup of buzz is coming from. And I get it, believe me. So let's talk fresh roasted. The big roaster in the area is Rothrock Coffee, located on South Atherton Street in State College. They have delicious blends and special release single bean roasts as well. You can go get beans or brewed at the cafe, and you can find their beans in pods at a lot of various stores as well. Now, you might recall that I interviewed Bill Clark at the cheese shop a while back while he was roasting a batch of beans right there in the front of the store. They are your small batch coffee experts with a wide range of single bean coffees. And cheese. Edu Coffee, that's spelled I-D-O-U, is based in Boalsburg, but while they roast there and deliver from there, you might see their spiffy little orange and green trailer out and about the area. Check them on Facebook to see where they'll be next so you can get a fresh, hot cup. There are, of course, plenty of great coffee shops in Center County, from my local, the Meandering Mallard in Millheim, to the incredible cluster of independent caffeine caterers in Bellefonte. So get to the happyvalley.com website and click on the Eat and Sip button, and then click through on the coffee shop's link. You'll perk up pretty darn quick. Now, I'm drinking coffee today, too, all through the episode, having a sip right now. When I'm not drinking, official what I'm drinking today stuff. The bean of choice today is Blackbeard's Revenge Blend from Fresh Roasted Coffee in Sunbury. Not only is Fresh Roasted good coffee that's still pretty darn reasonable in price, I feel some allegiance to them. Running over to Sunbury during the pandemic, masking up and going solo into their little store to pick out 3 or 6 bags of beans, they do a nice deal on multiples of 3. It helped keep me sane during that weird time. And I really do like the massive authoritative flavor of the Blackbeard's blend. Right, so how did I wind up in Madison, Wisconsin, interviewing a guy about coffee liqueur? I'll be honest, 4 months ago, I'd never heard of State Line Distillery. Then in early October, I got an email out of the blue from their publicist about their new rye whiskey, their award-winning coffee liqueur, and a promotional campaign with NFL quarterback Drew Brees. I don't care much about celebrity endorsements, but I do care very much about rye whiskey, and Madison wasn't too far out of my way on my Midwest book tour, and I'd already have the podcast gear with me, so I responded and asked her if John was available for an interview when I'd be passing through town. He was, so we set up an appointment. So just 6 days later, I walked up to the back entrance of the distillery, carrying my pack of equipment, and met a robust older gentleman waiting at the door. Turned out he was a farmer, waiting to pick up a truckload of slops. Someone opened the door and let us in, and I soon met John. We sat down in a comfortably warm room and did the following interview. Enjoy. I'm going to have a cup of coffee. Hey, I'm in Madison, Wisconsin at State Line Distillery with the founder, John Mleziva. How you doing?
Very well. Good to see you. Thanks for being here.
Great to be here. Thanks for inviting me. I'm guarantee none of my Pennsylvania listeners know anything about State Line Distillery. So,
yeah.
Neither did I until 10 minutes ago.
Right.
So tell us about it.
Yeah. So I opened State Line Distillery back in 2017 after spending some time in Scotland, getting a master's in science in brewing and distilling.
Wow, that's a really classic path to making whiskey.
Yeah, right?
That's great.
Yeah, what's funny about that is I actually, when I got interested in that program, it was all on the brewing side. That was really when I was younger. My grandfather got me into home brewing. We'll call it 21-ish. In my background in biology, I fell in love with fermentation science, yeast management, but it was always on the beer side. Mm-hmm. And so, as I kind of started to explore different pathways and came across this Master's in Science program over in Scotland, I moved there thinking beer, but, you move to Scotland and you spend a year and a half there.
I mean, you're going to drink some beer, but only because it's right in front of you.
Right. But really
the
nuts and bolts of everything is whiskey driven. And even that educational program did a great job on beer, but you could tell they were passionate about whiskey. Yeah. So that's really where my focus shifted. So after that program was done, I moved back to Madison and really decided this was a perfect spot to open a distillery. Mostly because there wasn't a whole lot going on within Madison in terms of distillation.
Oh, okay.
And so this city is perfectly sized for a business like this. I very intentionally chose a location about a mile from the capital where we could both make the spirits and have a cocktail lounge and a tasting room to show everyone kind of how we make them and how do you drink them, right? Mm-hmm. And so that was in 2017.
By the way, I definitely want to get some pictures out in the cocktail lounge because you don't just have like a list of stuff that goes in the cocktail. You are extremely specific about what goes in each cocktail, and you have illustrations. It's really great.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
I mean, I think, one of the things that we, pride ourselves on is taking care from a process standpoint from the starting of the grains that we're getting from the driftless area of Wisconsin all the way through the cocktails that are being presented in front of the, people that come here. In fact, I take a lot of pride in the fact that 2 different cocktails we've created have been named best cocktail in Madison.
Oh, very nice.
Madison Magazine kind of
it's not like you don't have competition.
Right, right. So, this idea of how we approach our craft, whether it's from making spirits or making cocktails, is quite similar. And so that even ties into the name State Line, right? Why are we
what is that?
Well, it's really this philosophy about how do we source things as locally as possible and so in support the great agricultural history of the state. So we work with farmers directly from the driftless region of Wisconsin, which is a really unique area in the country in terms of kind of the terroir of the land because of the way the glaciers did not kind of move through there. And so you've got this soil structure that's totally unique in terms of other areas, and what that does is provide a growing environment that's unique for different grains that then we're going to use in our spirits. So being a grain to glass distillery and sourcing those things directly from farmers in that region allows us to create spirits that I would say are uniquely ours, uniquely Wisconsin. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you also mentioned something about regenerative farming.
Yeah.
Can you expand on that?
Absolutely. So, I mean, the as I'm sure many of your listeners know, and that distilling is certainly a water intensive process, right? And there's other things that if you're not growing grains in a way that's, I guess, being good stewards of the land, you can have a lot of erosion of the land, a lot of degradation of the farmlands. And so this idea of working with farmers who are using regenerative agricultural practices, which is basically, in our situation, organic farming, right? Mm-hmm. And they're really trying to be mindful of the grains they're growing there, the water that they're using, kind of how they're even taking the mash back from us, the wash when we're finished with it, mm-hmm. so that it can be fed to their livestock. So we're kind of closing these loops to minimize our environmental impact wherever we can. That's really the crutch of it. And I think you
said we're going to be talking about your coffee liqueur. Even the coffee grounds get back in.
Yeah, they go right back into composting onto those lands as well. So we've got Farmer Brian, who shows up a couple times a week.
Is that the guy I came in with?
It is. In fact, yeah.
Yeah, the look he gave me, I'm like, no, we're really here for the same thing.
Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, Brian's amazing, and he collects from all over the city.
Nice.
He's a character. Everyone knows him very well. So, it's almost as an aside, when I started State Line, the idea of wanting to be connected to our farmers and having grain that we could source that was really unique to this region was something I felt really strongly about. And it just so happens that it, in my opinion, provides sort of the groundwork for a competitive kind of advantage as well in terms of the spirits that we're making.
Definitely a point of difference.
Yeah, point of difference.
Yeah, and you do make a fairly wide range of spirits.
Yes. I mean, like any distillery, when we started, it was our vodka, our American gin.
Have to.
Right. But very quickly, we wanted to expand our spirit base, not necessarily for, large range distribution, but for what we could use in the cocktail program here. So that meant we took our American gin and we started aging it and used bourbon barrels to make a barrel gin. Mm-hmm. So we had something that could be sort of in that realm of acting like a whiskey when we needed it to, but still a pretty interesting gin, right?
And get it a lot faster than a whiskey.
That's right.
Yeah.
Right. That was kind of the goal. And then we started going down the rabbit hole, right? So then it was Well, let's make ourselves an akavit, and a beautiful akavit, aged very much caraway and anise and just all the great things that.
Oh, you do barrel resting on that too?
Yeah, we do. It's a short barrel rest, but
you wouldn't want to go too long.
No, we're not really looking for any of the oxygenation effects of maturation. All we want is some of that barrel presence.
Pull some of that barrel out.
And just a kiss of it. So actually, and we're gonna dig in. I know on rye, but we're using our ex rye barrels now to age the akavit. When we
cool.
So that's really a fun
Is that the base spirit for the akavit? Is it rye based? Or?
No, for us it's of our vodka.
Okay, all right. Which is coming from?
Yeah, that's so 90% wheat, organic, soft red winter wheat, and 10% barley.
Nice.
So you get all the creaminess that we wanted from that wheat, and then the little touch of sweetness from the barley, which is really great.
Yeah, I think that soft red winter wheat. I mean, it just sounds like almost like a marketing term, but that's real. Really real.
Yes, it is, and it has a significant impact on the viscosity and perceived smoothness of the spirit, without again having to add anything else or any sort of weird stuff. You can just get there by using the grains.
Yeah,
yeah,
that's really cool. I was going to say the reason I'm here. I get an email from your publicist, and what she mentioned was coffee liqueur. That's what she was. I don't want to say that's what she was selling, but that's what the press release was about. That's how that works.
Yeah, absolutely.
But she happened to mention that you had a rye as well. So I'm from Pennsylvania. I want to talk about the rye. Well, we won't get to the coffee because I'm really fascinated by that. But
the rye.
Yeah, tell me why a rye in Wisconsin?
Well, I mean, I love rye.
Okay, that's a good reason.
That's a good starting reason. In terms of my loves of whiskeys, it goes Scotch, and then American single malt. Those are my those are my two really.
And you're making some of that too.
Yes. Yeah. So we had the American single malt was one of the first things we put down when we opened.
Shocked.
Right. Right. Come back from Scotland. Let's put down some whiskey. Right. But then as we went on, I always wanted to make a rye, and we have a bourbon as well. With bourbon still quietly resting.
Okay.
So the rye, actually, we had an opportunity to use what's called a Danko rye from the Driftless region. So we had access to that grain, and we loved it, and we just loved what it kind of it's a softer rye versus that real.
Yeah, it's not commodity stuff.
No. And so it's actually, we have a very high rye mash bill. It's 90% Danko and 10% barley. So I mean, but it still drinks like a nice rye. It's a little softer than what you'd think from a 90%, right? And so then that's all aged in 53s, New American White Oak, and off we go.
I know I can get into these weeds with you. No. It's driving me crazy. You have a degree in yeast management. The yeast you're using, is it POF positive?
Yes.
Aha. Okay. All right. I got a whole thing in the book about that because I just find that fascinating.
Yeah. So it's I mean, the rabbit hole is we could go down.
Yes.
Deep and deeper.
Yeah. I'll save that for the book. I'm not going to put my listeners through it. That's just my thing.
Yeah.
Okay. So, how long has it been in the barrel?
5 years.
5 years.
Yeah. So we harvested about a month and a half ago, and so we've been cutting, and now it's been in a resting stage, right? So we're going to bottle here in the next few weeks, and then it'll be released to the wild on November 15th.
Okay. So another rabbit hole.
Okay.
How far down did you proof it?
45.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And please explain why.
Well, I mean, the simplest explanation is that's where the spirit was shining, right? It's where it told us this is where it wants to be, and it's such an interesting thing when you proof whiskey. I mean, there is all of a sudden a moment where the structure will fall apart if you go too low, right? And so you need to find that sweet spot of what we're trying to achieve in terms of the flavors that we want it to be most pronounced.
Yes.
And then also have it hold structure both neat, over rocks, semi-diluted.
Yeah, because if you get too close to that fall apart point, you put then the consumer puts any water in,
and it falls apart on
you.
And so we just don't want that. So that's really the well, I guess it's technical, but it's where it holds up, where the structure of it.
I really don't, and I say this because I didn't understand proofing at all until about 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And I was just telling somebody yesterday, I felt like I'd been living in this big whiskey mansion for years and suddenly found a whole new wing that no one had told me about. But I just think proofing is fascinating. I like to compare it to someone changing clothes.
Sure.
Still the same person, completely different look.
Absolutely.
And you look at them different, perceive them different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, because what we always set up is what I would say is just a simple max-min scenario, right?
Sure.
So we say, I don't think this is going to be over X proof, right? And if it, and then if we hit the max and we still think there's room to go, we would
Take a look.
But we say, and we know it's not going to be under this, so we're going to taste it at these two, and now we're going to spend our time
Start working it
living in the grays until we, can find a consensus on, this is it. This is where we're locked in. So those are fun days. Yeah. As you imagine.
Yeah.
Right? Just to get to nerd out on all the different things of the spirit.
Yeah. No, proofing is fascinating.
Yeah. Honestly, the proofing is fascinating. And the one thing I don't think we went into nearly as much depth when I went through school in Scotland is the mellowing of spirits and the significance that plays in terms of just flavor profile and smoothness on palate and kind of all these different things that are part of this really slow last step. You want to let it be able to sit as long as you can.
Yeah. I remember just recently, we have a little whiskey club back in our town. And one of the things we were talking about 6 months ago was how, you can have 122 proof whiskey and it's less hot on the palate than a 96.
Yeah.
It's all in how it's made, how it's done, how it's rested.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's fascinating. Okay. All right. We can go too far. I didn't want to.
We never.
Right. So let's get to the coffee liqueur.
Yeah.
What's it called? Why do you make a coffee liqueur?
Well, so it's State Line Coffee Liqueur.
Okay.
Why we make the coffee liqueur? That's a great question. It's because we wanted to have a big Lebowski party here.
You just keep coming up with these great reasons.
That's 100% accurate or true.
Okay.
So Wisconsin, back when we made this several years ago at this point, Wisconsin law was such that in a tasting room we could only serve what we made. So we had our vodka, we had American gin, a few other things, right? We didn't have a coffee liqueur, and so we wanted to have a big Lebowski party at the distillery, and so to do that, you better be able to serve a White Russian. So that started us down this rabbit hole of saying, well, let's create a coffee liqueur. So, I'd say the way we approach
Is it a Wisconsin thing? Because I know coffee liqueur is a New England thing. Do we drink a lot of coffee liqueur here?
A lot of people drink a lot more of it now that we.
Okay, that's good.
It's honestly, it represents 57% of our total sales.
No
up
kidding.
From less than 1% when we started.
Wow.
And it's won an insane amount of awards at the San Francisco World Spirits Competition, double gold 3 years in a row, best in the world,
Congratulations.
best in class
That's
twice in a row. So what started as like a fun, let's have a party, has turned into a sales leader for us.
Wow.
And I think we stumbled into good timing on when we created the coffee liqueur, because the espresso martini craze sort of took off as ours was really being established. But I think we also came to it when there weren't very many options on the market. You had your big Kahlua, right?
Sure.
And I think
Tia Maria,
Brigetti, Mr. Black was just around, but they weren't everywhere at that point. And so there wasn't this huge array of coffee liqueurs on the market. And frankly, many of them used either coffee concentrate or coffee flavoring. Mm-hmm. And instead of going that route, after we kind of sampled what was on the market and took stock of that and said, where do we want to fit? Well, it turned into an 8-month project with a local roaster here, Kin Coffee, where we worked through every type of kind of preparation you could think of, V60 all the way to cold brew coffee, drip, all of it. And we landed on cold brew being, this is it. This is the base, because you get all those beautiful chocolate notes, rich, smooth on the palate without the sort of high acidity and tannin kind of bite.
Yeah.
Right? And
so that's what Kahlua does too.
Yeah.
I've been there. It's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's cold brew coffee and then mixed with our vodka. So you get all that creaminess of the wheat that we're sourcing from the driftless region, and then a little organic cane sugar. And it's just it. That's 3 simple ingredients.
And the email said not as sweet as most.
No. Yeah. Right. Actually, less than half the sugar than what is really kind of on the market, based on our lab distillation. So
more coffee liqueur than liqueur coffee.
Correct. Yeah. And I think that's where a lot of people have loved our product, because they're used to a coffee liqueur that is a bit cloying.
Kind of syrupy.
Yeah, coats your mouth.
Yeah.
This one is it's sweet because it's a liqueur, but it's 25% ABV. It hits, and then the back end is all coffee. And it's delicious. You want to try?
Let's do that. Yeah.
Let's try. So
we just happen to have a bottle handy and glasses handy too. So.
Unbelievable how that happens.
Yes.
So
Very
this
nice.
is I think.
I gotta say, I don't think I've ever had coffee liqueur in a Glencairn before. I kind of like that.
Well, you're missing out.
That's
then.
right.
Cheers.
Cheers. Oh boy, yeah, that is not as sweet.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, the sweetness is there, but it's a taste. It's not a cling.
It doesn't stick.
Yeah.
And the coffee holds on for me. And when you're the thing is you're already, for most cocktails, you're adding another layer of sweetness anyway, in terms of like a simple or whatever. So we wanted this to kind of shine on its own. I mean, I honestly, probably the way I drink it the most is on the rocks and I express a lemon peel over it, and it's just gorgeous. It's very, it feels very Italian, very European in terms of like just this decadent little after dinner.
I do drink Kahlua on the rocks, and I go lime.
You go lime?
Yeah.
Somebody else just asked me about that, and I'm going to have to try it. Cause,
2 ounces in a glass with ice and a whole half of a lime. You just squeeze it and drop it in the shell.
I'm going to have to try that, because I've actually not tried that. I've always just stuck with the lemon.
I don't know if it works because it is so much sweeter, but I think it's worth a try. Okay. It's really good.
All right.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to have a little more of this.
Yeah. What's nice about this, too, is by volume, 65% of the bottle is cold brew. So it's quite a pick-me-up.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of caffeine in this.
Okay. I just happen to notice you have a bottle of rye there.
I do.
Can we try that?
Yes, we may.
Okay.
Yeah. So as I said, this isn't out yet, and so I'll be interested to get your thoughts.
And you do use synth corks.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
If I could just throw in that little thank you for synth corks.
Sure.
Man, I hate it when a cork breaks.
When they break. Oh. And you know what? We found that to be a problem, and it was just like, no.
I've never had a synth cork break.
Right.
I've had a hard time getting them back in the bottle sometimes, but they go.
Yes, they do.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Cheers. Okay. Wow. Definitely grain forward.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm asking your palates to do a lot coming right off of coffee.
Right off the coffee, yeah. I mean, the first sip is just clearing. Yeah. And where are we in proof here? You already said.
This is probably 45.1.
Okay.
Yeah, right there.
Wow, yeah, that is nicely non-aggressive.
Yeah.
On the palate. I'm not saying it's but the proof. I'm done with barrel proofing. And the sad thing is, I've drunk so much of them that I don't even wince anymore.
Right.
I'm just like, why?
Right.
I want to find, and I always I'm putting water in it.
Yes. So that's never the goal. Like we're always trying to just go where the spirit does the best.
Yeah. And you know what? I trust the people who make it all the time to do that better than I'm going to, just thinking, I'll put a little water in. It's great.
Right.
Is it?
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because I always say when people come and I do tours and tastings, I do always say, drink it out of the bottle because that's what
always try it that way
always
first.
Try it that way first because that is what the intention was of someone, and hopefully they knew what they were doing, of getting that in front of you. And then after that, choose your own adventure. If you want to put if you wanted to put this on the rocks, you want to dump a bunch of water in it. Great. If that's what your palate wants to do, then
you bought it.
Exactly.
It's yours.
Exactly. And I've never had I don't get uppity about that kind of thing.
Yeah. We talked a little bit about this.
Yeah.
The coffee liqueur. Obviously, you do make White Russians.
We do.
And the lemon peel.
The lemon peel.
Right.
Yep.
What else do you do with it? I assume you make
espresso martinis.
Right? Yeah.
We whenever we have those on our menu, which pretty much regularly, like we'll sell a lot of those. But it's really interesting because the coffee liqueur also mixes really well with like mezcal, and like you can get into some really fun tequila recipes that we have them linked on our website, statelinedistillery.com.
There you go.
So you can see a lot of different ways to use the coffee, because I think most people first thing pops in their head is either an espresso martini or a White Russian, but there is a huge array of ways you can use it. And in fact, one of my favorite ways is it doesn't sell a lot of bottles of coffee liqueur, but like less, like an eighth of an ounce or a teaspoon in a Manhattan, and there's this really interesting depth of background note, because you're really not trying to sweeten up anything, but that coffee note kind of plays just beautifully in the background of a Manhattan.
I'm going to try that.
Yeah, it's very good.
Yeah, I've been just getting a little crazy with Manhattan variations.
Have you throw black walnut bitters in your?
I've been scared. I'm actually allergic to walnuts, so I'm just afraid of what
might happen.
Yeah, I don't.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, I haven't even experimented. I just see the word walnut,
and you're like,
nope.
that's okay.
Hello.
Yeah, it's very. That's the way I drink my Manhattans, like throughout the winter.
Okay,
like it just is that extra layer of richness.
Yeah, like sitting by a fire.
That's right.
Yeah.
But the coffee. Honestly, you can even just, because it's the roast for that is an espresso roast. You can just shake it, and it gets this beautiful, creamy, frothy, and then just pour it into a coupe, and now you're 95% to an espresso martini without having to do anything else.
Right.
So it's the lazy version of a beautifully.
Yeah, float a couple of beans on
and
it,
you're done.
You're in heaven.
You're done.
There you go.
So I drink it that way as well.
I wanted to ask a more general question to wind things up. I just went to the Indie Spirits Expo in Chicago on Tuesday. We talked a lot about how things are harder now. Hospitality's taken a hit.
Absolutely.
After COVID and other things. The tariffs, the economy. The tariffs are got to be hitting you with coffee.
Yep.
How's the market?
Oh, it's
a very broad question.
Yeah, it's. I would say the 10,000-foot view, even from my perspective, the market's not great, right? It's we're seeing contraction. I think across all three, beer, wine, and spirits that we haven't seen.
Yeah, RTDs seem to be doing.
RTDs
fine
are
so
the
far.
thing, right? Fine so far,
but
I think that I would say we are doing okay, mainly because a huge part of our business is local, Madison driven, right? And so Wisconsin always bucks the trends on drinking.
Yeah.
So while there's been a slowdown here, it's probably still above average of drinking for the rest of the country. And so,
excuse me, probably.
Well, okay.
You guys are legends.
I was trying to be gentle about that, but yeah, it absolutely is.
Yeah.
So, I think there's two things helping us. One, that we're local, and two, that the sort of the trends that are moving people away from maybe quantity of alcohol they're drinking is looking for quality of alcohol. So it's not about how much you're drinking. It's if you're choosing to drink, are you drinking something that's really good?
Yeah, I was actually just talking to a restaurant owner at lunch. I was at the Olympic Tavern in Rockford, talking to Zach, and he said, people are not coming out as much, but when they do, he said they're getting the crab stuffed walleye.
Right.
They want something nice that they can't make at home.
Yep. And
for me, that's pretty much any cocktail because I suck at that. But God bless bartenders.
Yes. I guess I've always approached drinking and eating that way myself. Like if I'm not going to make it at home, like if I'm going out, I want an experience. I want it to be something that's delicious from a food and beverage and hospitality side of things. And so for better or worse, we've kind of hitched our
that's who you're talking to,
right? And so while we have certainly seen a slowdown, we haven't fallen off a cliff.
Good.
And so we're working, increasing our distribution within the state in areas that we still have room, like the Fox Valley up by Green Bay area. But then we're also the coffee liqueur, because of its accolades and our connection with Drew Brees, which is a whole nother story.
Yeah.
That helped us open up, San Diego, Nashville, and Austin.
Okay.
And so we're in these 3 other markets just with the coffee, and it's doing really well.
Uh-huh.
And so it's kind of it's a way for us to grow, but at a controlled pace and what we can handle.
Yeah, I'm still kind of getting over that percentage that the coffee liqueur is of your sales. That's amazing.
At this point, we are a coffee liqueur company that makes other spirits.
Yes.
I mean, and I always say that
not
in
your
jest.
plan.
No, not my. Yeah, that was not my first line of my business plan. But
only an idiot would have.
Yeah,
I have to say.
100%.
Yeah.
But I think that, so people always ask me, does that annoy me, or is that because I went to school to make whiskey,
right? Right.
And I always say no, not at all, because I think it's funny, that we've landed here, but we approach every single spirit that we make with the same kind of this idea of how do we make the best version of the thing we're making,
mm-hmm.
And most of the time, that just lives in our own little world of our distribution footprint. And it just happened to be that these other stars aligned with the coffee, and off she went. Because as more people have tried it, they say, wow, this is something very special, and it's
exceptional.
Different.
Yeah, yeah. I hate to keep going back to... No, I don't. I'm lying.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
No need to. I mean,
that's really good.
Thank you.
Sure. Thank you. That'll do me.
Yeah.
Pleasure to meet you. Thanks.
Lou, good to meet you. Thank you for coming.
Yeah, I'm glad I did.
Yeah, cheers.
All right, man. Now, that rye whiskey really was good. It was not screaming young, but starting to mellow. I'll be honest, he didn't have any bottles or even little samples for me to take along, so I'm working from memory. After I packed up my gear, we tried a few more small sips of stuff, and I got on the road from Milwaukee, where I was doing another event at Guy Rehorst's Great Lakes Distillery. We took a tour of the distillery. I gave a talk about craft distilling and where it might be headed. Then I started signing books. I was pleasantly surprised to find myself signing one for my editor's sister, who lives in Milwaukee and came out to meet me. Nice family. After the signing, Guy gave me a bottle of his Kinnickinnick whiskey, and he'd heard I'd been at State Line, so he gave me a bottle of his coffee liqueur called Good Land. And that's what I'm drinking next today. So, Good Land is at 70 proof, 35% alcohol, and it's made with beans from Valentine Roasters there in Milwaukee. Wow, this is, there's a lot more roast there. It's an edgier smell, and I guess maybe you could expect that with the higher proof too. Wow, this almost smells more like liquor, like whiskey, really, with coffee in it, like as I used to say, a cup of coffee with a flying buttress in it. Let's have a sip. Oh my, that's good too. Now, this one actually does taste a bit sweeter than the State Line, but the added spirit takes the edge off of that, and it works because this doesn't cling either. Darn, if you like your coffee liqueur a bit more boozy, and we'll get to that when we talk about Kahlua later. This is a good thing to have. I really like the old-timey label, too. This really looks like something from maybe the late 1800s. Pile of beans, coffee flowers, and some nice font work there. But wow, yeah, that's pretty good stuff. Boy, another sip of coffee. Blackbeard's holds up to that. So speaking of Kahlua, this seems like a good time to talk about the Kahlua trip. I told you about some of that back in episode 24 when we talked to Bill Clark, but that was really kind of technical stuff about coffee. This is more about the feelings, which I honestly remember vividly because it truly was one of the best press trips I've been on in almost 30 years. I can even remember what my room looked like, what the breeze felt like. Let's go to Mexico for a coffee. Hello, little dogs. We're in a coffee shop in Coatepec, in the middle of Mexico's coffee area. We landed earlier today in Mexico City, which just sprawls tremendously, miles and miles from the air. We took a small turboprop plane from there. The pilot flung us up and over the mountains, and suddenly, bang, we were banking hard left and dropping, landing right beside cows in a pasture. We got in 2 SUVs and drove through towns, hills, over waterfalls, and through groves of green trees. Our hotel has a courtyard, and my room opens onto it, has a fountain, flowering plants, and hummingbirds everywhere. After we'd settled in, we walked up here to Bola de Oro and had lecheros, hot milk in a cup with a cup of espresso to dump into it. Coffee's grown here, roasted here, and frickin' well enjoyed here. So the next day, our group of writers and bartenders, because this was back before influencers and TikTokers, we met Cuauhtémoc Apan Rojas, who owns a kind of throwback coffee plantation called Café Tal. We hiked through it. It's old school, coffee plants in among other trees and banana plants for shade. These Arabica beans need shade and the right altitude, and he thinks they also need the whole ecosystem. We saw toucans and heard them too, and saw a long procession of leafcutter ants. We heard monkeys and other birds. And then we went back to the processing area, which honestly was tiny, maybe the size of my house. Out back was a clearing in the woods. There was a coffee tree in the middle, and big 57-kilo coffee sacks filled with wood pellets arranged in a ring around it. We sat on the sacks, and Cuauhtémoc told us the romance of coffee. It was spellbinding, and I wish someone had recorded it. One thing I did write down, how much coffee should you have a day? 2 to 3 cups a day is good for your health. I've read similar doctors' recommendations, but I'll be exceeding that today. For science. I think I'll have a cup now, with one of those coffee cookies Kathy made. We'll be back in a minute. Short minute. Good cookie. Good coffee. So that night, we went to the oldest bar in the region, La Estrella de Oro, dating back to about 1903. The railroad used to run literally right in front of the door. There were bare fluorescent lights on the walls, a calendar from 2009, an old Wurlitzer jukebox with traditional mariachi music, and a bunch of old locals at the bar and us, sitting at a stone-topped folding table. We drank bottles of Indio from the same brewery that makes Dos Equis. Indio was an amber Vienna-style lager. We were having some shots of mezcal when I spotted the bartender coming out of a back room with a tall tumbler of slightly cloudy clear liquid. He poured some into the locals' glasses. I asked our guide, Pablo, not kidding, I wrote it down, what it was, so he went and asked. And he came back with a grin. Donkey herb, he said. It was the local cane spirit, infused with a plant called yerba del burro. Donkey herb. He got us some. It was sweet and herbal, with a hint of something like tarragon. Never miss a chance for new booze. The next day, we were supposed to fly back to Mexico City, but the Veracruz airport was socked in with fog. What to do? Our Pernod Ricard press team decides immediately, gas up, we shall drive there, over the mountains. Well, hot damn! It was quite an adventure, and we talked and talked as the landscape rolled by. Trees and flowers blooming everywhere, snow-capped volcanoes in the middle distance, a long climb that has in low gear at one point. And out in the middle of nowhere, a toll booth guarded by guys in Kevlar vests with no-nonsense shotguns, festooned with spare rounds. Unfortunately, that would be a bit of foreshadowing for Mexico City. We were ordered, not to leave our hotel without an escort. And we went out to dinner. Our 2 SUVs were joined by another SUV full of young men in sunglasses with bulges under their jackets. Apparently, there was a lot of kidnapping going on at that time. Quite sobering. The next day, we went and saw how Kahlua is made. The beans arrived in super sacks, about a ton in each. They're toasted in 100-kilo batches, about an hour at 375 degrees. Then they rest for 12 hours. They're ground, and they rest another 12 hours. This is all for gases to escape. It's standard practice in roasting coffee. The ground coffee is then mixed with water at ambient temperature and pumped to holding tanks. And then cane spirit is added, and it all sits there for 6 weeks, marrying and infusing. They pump it to another tank, leaving the grouds behind and filtering out the fine sediment. And this is where the caramel and vanilla is added. And I would note that all of the ingredients, the coffee, the cane for the spirit and the caramel, the vanilla, and of course the water, even the bottles and labels, all comes from Mexico. Now, right off the tank, this stuff is 42%, 84 proof. And my friends, it is phenomenal. Extreme Kahlua, intense caramel and vanilla, and chocolate sensations. It is huge and delicious. If you can find a rare bottle of the Kahlua Especial, it's close to this. The Especial is bottled at 35%, and it makes a very intense espresso martini. So that was the Kahlua trip. The excitement wasn't quite over. We flew home into a blizzard and were the last flight to land at Newark before they shut it down. My limo driver drove down to Bucks County at about 25 miles per hour. I used to live an exciting life writing about booze. Oh, I forgot something. Maybe the best thing to come out of the trip. Our first night, I was telling everyone how when I was a bartender, one guy used to get Kahlua sours. Only in those days, we were using the daily sour mix, a kind of greenish yellow mixture that made the Kahlua drink turn a murky shade of dark olive. Looked like 30-weight oil, I said, and we laughed. The Kahlua PR team talked to the bar manager and brought us a round of drinks, a true Kahlua sour, they said. It was really simple. 2 ounces of Kahlua on the rocks with half a lime squeezed into it, and the lime shell dropped in after. It was an eye-opener. All the impressions I had about Kahlua being heavy and sweet were blown away with the first sip. The fresh lime brightened and freshened it, accented the caramel and vanilla by contrast. It was alchemy, magic, and we couldn't stop talking about it. I've been making them ever since. In fact, let's have one. What I'm drinking next today is that Kahlua sour with fresh lime. If I had any Kahlua Especial, I'd use that. But the original works just fine. Hey, hear that? Hand mixing that baby. Oh, man. You smell the lime because it's sitting right on top, but right underneath it is that coffee. Oh, man, there it is. All that stuff was just that blast of lime. It's so weird that this works, but it works wonderfully. If you have a bottle of Kahlua in the house, go get some limes and try this. It is really delicious. The PR team, I remember getting in touch with them about 6 months later when my story came out, because you always like to tell them. And everybody said they'd been sampling people on this, and it's just, wow, everybody loves it. Seriously, try it. And you know what? When I went and got the Kahlua, I found a 375 milliliter bottle of the coffee liqueur from the late House Spirits in Portland, the wonderful place that came up with Westward Whiskey and Aviator Gin. It's delicious, too, made with a batch of rum they made in Guatemala, and that rum's great if you can find it. But the thing is, with this coffee spirit, next to no one knows about it, and it may never be mentioned anywhere again, so let's have a sip so it doesn't disappear. Oh, man. See, now that's a completely different thing, because this is not cane spirit, like boiled out in the column still. This is rum with coffee, and that rum comes through. Yeah. Yeah, that's almost like a made drink instead of a liqueur. Now this is almost more like drip coffee than espresso. It's a less insistent coffee, and yet at the same time, boy, at the same time, it's almost more pure. The sugar is not there. This is very low on sugar. It's barely sweet, and it clings even less than the others. And that rum really comes through. This is only 40 proof, just 20%, and yet the rum is quite present. It's an interesting take on things, and it's why I got this bottle. I was very impressed with it, and I still am. And wow, Ave House Spirits, you done good. I really hope the plan to revive Westward Whiskey works out. More coffee. All right, let's wrap this up so I can relax with the family and you can go relax with yours. First, and I don't want to forget this, the Pittsburgh Whiskey Friends, my second favorite whiskey club after Milheim's own Camp David Discords, graciously included me in their holiday distribution. Aaron Hyduk drove up to Milheim and dropped off their whiskey advent calendar full of 24 little whiskey samples and their club cookbook, which, wow, I love that. Thanks, folks, and a Merry Christmas from the Smack Dab Center. Now, I know I said I'd have YouTube links up to the What's Brewing PA show I do this week, and I told you to hold me to it, and I didn't make it. Next week looks much more likely, and you can hold me to that, too. Hey, Christmas was yesterday. Did you buy a copy of American Whiskey Masterclass for a gift or for yourself? Did some wonderful person get you your own copy? No? Oh, man, I can't believe this. Look, fear not, my good friends. Now is the time to take the initiative and get that copy for yourself, a signed, personalized copy. You'll find that the new SeenThroughAGlass.com website makes it easier than ever. Don't forget to add a Seen Through a Glass sticker to your order for only $1 more and slap it where it'll get some attention. Well, that's about it for 2025. Tomorrow, we're going to go see our new nephew, Everett Keen Starr, and make sure his mom and dad are holding up okay. Then it'll be New Year's Eve, which we'll celebrate with another singular tradition we have. After midnight and all the hugging and hollering is over, we fire up the grill and make a mess of sausages and onions for a late snack before watching movies into the night. And this year, we're going to spend the last afternoon of the year making pierogi to go with them. It's going to be great. And I'll get a keg of Zeno's Rye IPA from Otto's Pub and Brewery to accompany them. It's a great way to see in the new year. But no more coffee. I'm going to be buzzing right into the weekend. Who am I kidding? What I'm drinking last today is a Philly product, something I ration myself on. La Colombe Triple Latte, a delightful nitro-blasted boost of coffee and cream in a can. Oh, man, that's so nice. Do not shake the can. I did that once. You just open it and pour it out, and this beautiful little head forms on top. Nitro-boosted caffeine buzzo. Oh, the smell is so nice. Little bit of sugar, whole lot of cream. Oh, cold and delicious. This is not as sweet or I'll say it, adulterated as a mocha. It is. Yeah. Sometimes I'll have one of these on the road, keep the eyes open, that kind of thing. Wow. The finish on that has a lot of bean in it. Really more than up front. Up front, you're really getting the nitro foamy and the cream and a little bit of sugar, just a tiny bit. But on the end, you really get the coffee bean. Boy, that's good. And on the road, I just drink them straight from the can, but I did pour this into a glass. And you can actually get this on draft at the La Colombe Cafe in Philly. It's not far from where my son lives. A beautiful place to stop. But thanks to the magic of the Nitro can, I can get them at Wegmans and Sheetz and Wawa too. Whew, seriously now, no more coffee. And that's the show. My thanks to John Mleziva at State Line for talking to a Pennsylvania podcaster. As always, you can find pictures for this episode on Instagram at Stag Podcast and on Facebook at Seen Through a Glass. I recently talked to a lot of local folks who are listening to the show on the radio at WSOV FM, which is great. And just so you listeners know, there are over 70 more episodes to enjoy at Spotify or Apple Podcasts, Podbean, any of the major podcast sources, and soon at the Seen Through a Glass website. I listen to a lot of classical music, especially when I'm writing, but I've never listened to Bach's Schweigstille, plaudert nicht, which translates as, be still, stop chattering, better known as the Coffee Cantata. It's a lighthearted piece set in a coffee shop, sung by a narrator, a father, and his daughter. The father is concerned by the daughter's coffee addiction, but eventually they sing together that drinking coffee is natural. Indeed. Well done, Johann Sebastian. Next episode, the first episode of 2026, we're going to talk to Herman Mihalich at Mountain Laurel Spirits, better known as Dad's Hat. We'll do that in 13 days because we're back on the Thursday schedule. Until then, thanks for listening and a Happy New Year. This is Lou Bryson on Seen Through a Glass, raising a glass to you and your family and to all good folks, from the quiet, peaceful, and faintly vibrating from all this caffeine, smack dab center of the Keystone State.